Bibles, we're going to be in John chapter 13 this morning. John chapter 13. And if you're new to Parkway, I apologize for that. That was all for me. My name is Ray. I'm one of the pastors on staff here. We are glad that you are here this morning worshiping with us. We are thrilled, as a matter of fact. If you came in and this is your first time and you did not get one of our Parkway bags at the welcome desk, on your way out, stop by there and they will get you one. It's full of goodies and a lot of information that you will like to have about us. And we would just want to get to know you a little bit about you if you want to. Todd mentioned the idea of a connection card. There's one in the seat in front of you. You can fill that out and just leave it on the seat. We'll pick it up after the service. You won't get any advertisements. You won't get any... Hopefully you won't get any strange stuff. Usually what I do is I send you an email on Monday just thanking you for coming in. If you have any questions, you can do it that way. So, all right, John chapter 13. And I want to ask you a question. What matters most? Where you spend eternity, all right? What matters most in life? God, that's the default answer. That's a good answer. But beyond that, I know that God should be the most important thing in our life. But beyond that, what's the most important thing in your life? And the way you can do this, you understand that time is precious. The clock is ticking, and as far as I know, every single one of us at some point in time is going to pass from this world to the next. Matter of fact, I think the statistic is 1 out of 100%. And time is precious, and what you do with your time determines what you feel is most important in life. So think about it from that aspect. What's most important in your life? Love one another. All right, we can go home because I'm done. That was the message right there. It's fascinating to me, this message. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to say. And the events of last week or this week, however you want to look at it, kind of pushed me in this direction. Through my travels, I have gone from one spectrum to the other as far as what I feel is important in my life. I'm running into these people, maybe you have too, that have become fascinated, and there's about 3 of them playing it right now over there in a corner. Have you heard about this game called Pokemon Go? Yeah, some of you downloaded it. Shame on you. So I meet these people who are playing this game, and I'm interested, I'm fascinated, because they're walking around like this, and then they're doing this, and I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I'm capturing Pikachu or whatever it happens to be. And I say, okay, can I ask you a few questions about this? What's the ultimate end game for here? What is the satisfaction of that? I mean, there's got to be something at the end of this game that is so fascinating that you're going to invest half of your life into it. No. The game actually never ends, is my understanding, the way they explained it to me. You get money for it? You get a reward? No, it's just kind of play the game. And people, millions of people, are running around. Some of them, I asked this question too. I said, now don't you have to get out of your car to capture this? No. If you drive real slow, you can do it in your car too. I said, well, they gave it away. I said, well, you never do that, right? I mean, that's dangerous. Now, I never play the game while I'm driving. Right. And I'm fascinated with why somebody, I guess if you don't have anything in life to live for, maybe that's what you do. For those of you that play it now, you're really convicted, right? I'm not sure that, I'm not going to download it, I can tell you that. And I'm probably not going to play it. I've got more important things. There's more important things in life to me than capturing imaginary whatever. The other end of that spectrum happened for Terry and I this week. Terry took her mother to the doctor. He begins to examine her, and she's been through 2 major surgeries in the last year, struggling to recover. And so there in that doctor's office, the doctor, and I thought through this, and I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. He looks her in the eye and he says, Mrs. Lindsay, you qualify for hospice. And let me just explain that to you. In order to qualify for hospice, it means you have less than 6 months to live. What's most important? What matters most in your life? If you had 1 week to live, 1 week left on this world, what would you spend your time doing? I think it's a valuable question. I'm not here to be morbid this morning. I'm just trying to refocus your brain a little bit that you might understand that God values your life, and yet sometimes we don't value ours, and we do some things that probably aren't really valuable in life. No one lives forever, but many people live like they think they're going to. I've watched this at different times. I get to go to a lot of hospitals, visit people in their final stages of life. And it's very interesting to watch, because when you're at that spot, your focus begins to change. Your focus changes, and there is clarity in what matters most. And if the person has not, up to that point, lived the way that they thought they should live, many times the word of regret comes to the forefront. And they regret how they've lived their life up to this point. If I'd only did this, if I've only done that, if I did it a different way. And they use their time carelessly. Psalm 39:4 says this, "Show me, Lord, my life's end, and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is." Verse 5, "You have made my days a mere handbreadth. The span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure." James describes it as life is a vapor. It's here today and it's gone tomorrow. Now, for the younger kids, they've already tuned me out because they've got forever to live, they think. Some of you who are older understand what I'm talking about, because the clarity is coming as you begin to examine your life over the last few years. You can't change the past, but you can live for the future. And so my thought this morning is that I could get you to think the way God thinks about life. What matters most? Throw up that next one, would you, Tyler? If what matters at the end of your life doesn't matter now, your priorities are misaligned. Let that sink in. So the question in my mind, if this is important, how do we know what should matter most? Certainly it's an individual choice, but I believe Jesus gives us an example. He gives us an idea of how He lived His life while He was here on earth, and we find it in John chapter 13. Jesus is about to celebrate the Passover with His disciples. I find that fascinating. He knows He's going to die, but He wants to spend this time with His disciples. And we may not get a picture of this, might not be able to quite understand it, but when people of that time and the Jewish people, when they sat down and celebrated the Passover, was intimate. And Jesus has gathered around the 12 men who He has invested in over the last 3 years. What's fascinating, as we read this passage, we're going to also find out that 11 of those men, they loved Jesus. But one of them is going to betray Him. And what I find fascinating about it is that Jesus invites him to the party. He wants to be intimate with this man even up to the end. And so we pick it up in verse 1, chapter 13. It says, "It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to his Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end." Verse 2, "The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, 'Lord, are you going to wash my feet?' Jesus replied, 'You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand.' 'No,' said Peter, 'you shall never wash my feet,' Jesus answered. 'Unless I wash you, you have no part with me.' Then Lord, Simon Peter replied, 'Not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well.' I think I'd have said the same thing. Jesus answered, 'Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you.' For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not every one was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. 'Do you understand what I have done for you?' he asked them. 'You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet.' Verse 15, 'I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them.'" And so what's going on in this story? Jesus gathers his disciples. They are the closest men to him. They have spent 3 years with him. And he gathers them around 1 week before he knows he's going to pass. He's going to be nailed to a cross. He understands why he has come. He knows what's going to happen to him. And the week before, he decides to gather these men together and to share a meal with him. Not only does he share a meal, but he does something very fascinating. He puts a towel around his waist and he begins to wash their feet as an act of a servant. This, if you understand, they would have been flabbergasted at this. Even if he had not been the Son of God, if he had just been their leader, for him to wash their feet, they would not have taken this lightly. They would have been so overwhelmed by this idea that Jesus was washing their feet. This was the lowliest job that any person could do, to wash the dirty feet. You understand, they didn't have socks like we have. Their feet would have been covered in dirt. And Jesus bends and he lowers himself to the lowest of lowest to wash his friends' feet.